Hey, this is John, JB Bandy, going on Cocktail Network Live.
And the concept behind BevNap mechanics is, if you recall many years ago, if you went to the deli or you went to a sandwich shop, whatever, you'd get your little number and you're waiting in line and you got your number and it says now serving, and then you're waiting for your number to be called. You know that you're going to be taken care of because you know when your number is going to come up. But when you walk in a bar, say 2 or 3 people come up at the bar in a very similar time, and then somebody gets mad because you took care of somebody else before them and they knew that they were there first. So the last thing you want to do is have people start off their experience at your bar ticked off that you kind of ignored them. It was totally innocent. You didn't do it on purpose. So what I did was BevNap mechanics. As soon as I heard somebody walk in or I heard somebody even just get near the bar, I'd look up and I'd get a BevNap and I would put a BevNap out in front of them and I just look at their eye, or I get eye contact with them. I promise I got you next. That sets them at ease. They know I've acknowledged them. So if I take an extra minute to get to them, they're not going to be mad. And then when I get there, I put the BevNap down, or they've got the BevNap in front of them. That signifies to all the other bartenders and managers, that person's already been taken care of. Move on to the guy without the BevNap. So now I'm taking care of this person. I get them their drink. They sit down. They're at ease. Everybody's happy. So making sure you do things first, get the drink down in front of them before you start playing tricks and doing, games.
When you start like reading guests, you know what the crowd pleasers are. I feel like the cherry trick is so underutilized. I mean, like, it used to be the coolest trick ever. Like,
describe it for us, would you?
Yeah. So pretty much you have a sword pick, that you would put a lime or a cherry in a drink with, and you put it in your mouth. You have your cherry, you throw it up, you catch it on the sword pick. So you can do that with an olive or a cherry.
Right. And it's not too hard to learn, right?
What's that?
It's not too hard to learn.
No, not too hard to learn. Like everything, just a little practice, especially because cherries are pretty expendable at the bar,
Right.
You do it once or twice every time you make something with a cherry, and you'll have it in a week,
It's just like catching a Smartie in your mouth, right?
Yeah, that's it. It's just like catching something in your mouth, but the pick just throws a little bit of that, a little bit more room for error. That's it.
With your sure. Yeah. Hi, I'm Michael, and you are watching Cocktail Network Live. Ciao. Woo!
All right, so tonight's cocktail is called the Streets of Mexico. It is inspired from my time in Mexico, 1202, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and actually walking the streets and seeing some of the fairs and the markets and having some local street corn. And I was really impressed. I'm like, this is amazing. This is so much fun. And I'm going to recreate that experience in a cocktail. So we got 2 ounces of Coromino, Gran Coromino, 1 ounce of mixed corn liqueur, 1 ounce of La Copa sweet vermouth, and 2 dashes of Aztec chocolate bitters. I'm down to 20 seconds. Time is flying by today, Dean. Oh my goodness. And we're going to strain that goodness over a large cube because I have it today. Top it some fresh grilled charred corn, spray of butter, smoked paprika. Woo! Coming down the wire, cilantro and coita cheese, the streets of Mexico.
Oh, there it is! Right on the money.
Hi, I'm Tom Dyer, and you're watching Cocktail Network Live.
For me, before we get on to all the questions and everything, Dean, you are like historically the showman, and you making that drink and pretty much everything you do, you're always a showman about it. And so much of my bartending skill and technique came from that showmanship that you always presented.
Oh, wow, man.
And all your videos and everything you do right now, I always love to see it.
I appreciate that so much. I mean, Rob and I are just kind of tripping our way through this whole thing and making it happen. And to know you're out there and cheering us on and supporting us no matter what, I greatly appreciate that, Phil. Thank you so much, man.
Hi, my name is Rafael Arce, and you are watching Cocktail Network Live. Yeah.
If I'm judging a cocktail, like the cocktail needs to be fucking delicious. It needs to be delicious. I don't care all this technique that you did to it. I don't care about all the ingredients that you use. The storytelling is absolutely an important piece of that too. But at the end of the day, your cocktail needs to taste fucking delicious.
The first year that I competed, I was interviewed by the Las Vegas Review Journal, and they said, "How do you think you're going to do?" I said, "I'm confident. I'm prepared. I'm going to win." Coming in second is like kissing your sister. Well, that year, I kissed my sister. I came back the next year and didn't place. And the third year, I trained even harder, and I was confident in my drink, the story of my drink. I was prepared, and I won that year. So it took me 3 years, but it takes a lot of work. You can't just show up and dial it in.
All right, here we go. I almost forgot what my ice cubes were already. So, starting off with, boom, some Cristalino tequila. Here's the Caramino Cristalino tequila. A little bit of simple syrup, just half an ounce of simple syrup, and some cranberry bitters from Fee Brothers Cranberry Bitters. We'll get that a little stir. Boom, boom. Well, I got plenty of time here. I already have a clear ice cube prepared over here. Just gonna get some cold and some water off of that. And we'll drop her in and strain it over top of my clear ice cube. I have struggled on a garnish for this cocktail, so therefore I'm not having one.
Yeah, my final sip basically is first the banter between you two guys. I love the way how you guys mesh very well together. It's amazing. The camaraderie between you guys is one of a kind. I also enjoyed seeing you guys make that cocktail in a minute. Okay, I mean, one of us cheated. One of you cheated, but hey, I'm not going to call any names. Okay? I know my winner, and if I was to judge, I know who the winner is. There you go.
So,
yeah,
Damien, now that you've called me out as cheating, I guess I have to admit, yes, I cheated because I pre-shot it, and I did actually take a couple of runs at it. So, in my new studio. So I knew it! I have been honest. All right, come on. This is a safe space, isn't it? Is this a safe space?
And I remember right before I won World Class in 17, I was in San Diego, and I was on a beach. And Robin Clausen was my tour guide down in San Diego. Right. And she took a picture of me looking out into the Pacific Ocean for the first time. And I remember saying to myself, I would have never in a million years back in 2000 at that bartending school imagined this journey. Never in a million years would I have thought I would see the places that I have, meet the people I have, enjoyed the successes I have. So it's just about appreciating the relationships and the opportunities that this industry affords.
In the presence of a well-made Negroni, taut nerves relax, taut muscles relax, eyes brighten, friendships deepen, and the whole world becomes a better place in which to live. As Helen would say, happiness.
How are you?
Well, I think the idea of your show is amazing.
You put in all the work when people aren't watching.
Hey, thank you. I'm honored. Thank you for being so cool.
And that's it. Have fun.
So let's
let's get into it.
Hey, Dean, let's get into
it. Woo! Welcome back,
Oh, my
Rob.
God.
Nice little break we had there.
It's crazy because like during the time that break, it seemed like it took forever. Like we got so much done, we got so much accomplished personally and business wise.
Right.
But like right now, it's like time never went by. It's like we were just on last week as we're doing this right now. We just fall right back into it.
Yeah, certainly a whole lot happened in the last 2 weeks. We're right back into it. We got Joe producing. Say shout outs to Joe in the background. Woo!
Joe makes us look good.
Making us look sharp. So what were you doing for the last 2 weeks?
A lot. First, taking some precious time off mentally to just decompress, rewind a little bit, and unwind, which was nice. I got a lot accomplished with the Cocktail Art Challenge. We posted the registration for that.
Yeah.
It's pretty much sold out. Yes, there's one amateur spot left. We're allowed to have 20 competitors because we only have so much time on stage. And then I kind of put it out there because so many people have been reaching out, Rob, I want to do this, Rob, I want to do this, or Rob, I want to do this, that on May 10th at midnight at 12 a.m., May 10th, we're going to open up 2 more spots. First come, first serve. Whoever grabs it gets to get in. So we're actually going to jump it up to 22 competitors to try to appease everybody and just have a great show.
That's great. That's so great. So exciting to see that kind of energy coming back into the flair and mixology world now that all our comps are flair and mixology. So exciting to see everybody coming up to the table and stepping it up. Good job, Rob.
That's great. And then I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret right now. I wasn't going to announce it to May 10th, but I'm going to tell you guys now.
Oh, I'm excited.
2 things. I'm going to give you 2 things, actually.
Oh my God. Let me sit down. Where's a chair? I need a chair.
The first thing is, for the first time in probably 2 years, we're going to have a new champion for the Cocktail Art Challenge. Because the previous champion, Mr. Ivan Yusuf, is not competing this year and coming to judge.
Wow, what a good gentleman he is. What a great gentleman.
He is amazing. So looking forward to see who steps up and going to take the reins as the new champion. And the second insider information, which you guys, our lovely viewers, are going to get, the MC for the competition. This is big. This is huge. Bringing it back from the days of Quest, the days of Legends, the original voice of Flair, Cocktail Art Challenge on National Flair Bartenders Day is going to be emceed by none other than Mr. J.D. Spradlin.
Yes. Yes. There's no bigger voice of flair than J.D. Spradlin. I mean, he brought home Legends of Bartending and Quest and so many of those big competitions for that entire decade. J.D. Spradlin is amazing, and which also brings us to another point. You want to tell it? Because you set it up.
Next week's guest is going to be none other than Mr. J.D. Spradlin.
Yes. JD will be joining us next week as a guest on One Drink with JD Spradlin. So very exciting as we plan ahead. And that's our new logo down in the corner there, down over there. That's our new logo, One Drink with. Thank you very much, Rob. Looks pretty cool. A little some novelty there, some old school look.
We're getting more and more official. And Dean, you've been busy. What's your whirlwind tour been like in the last month?
Oh, who, me? I've been. I was on a 6-city tour of Italy.
Amazing.
Yeah, pretty awesome. Oh my gosh. Marco Canova and Matteo Esposito took me around to see our distributors for Finest Call and Real, American Beverage Marketers, to see all of our distributors around Italy. I got to present to probably 150 of our distributors. It was so amazing. And the pictures I got the new iPhone before I left, and the pictures are absolutely incredible. Of the Roman Colosseum and the fountains and all the Roman columns and Sicily. I mean, I wasn't in Sicily. I was talking to another guy who had been in Sicily. I was in where was it? I landed in Naples, where pizza was invented, and onto Sorrento and Salerno, and onto Rome for a night, and then into Venice for the weekend, and on to Milan after that. Absolutely amazing. And if you haven't had a chance, save up the money, get over to Italy, because I've just never seen anything like it. The churches, you can walk in the churches, and the churches look like they were all carved from one giant block of marble, and the perfectly painted ceilings. And everybody was very friendly, and it was just a beautiful, beautiful trip. So God bless Beverage Marketers, Bill Hinkebine, Frank Armanese. Thank you very much for lining all that up, because it was just an absolute chance of a lifetime. And I probably wouldn't have gone if not for this awesome career and this great company I get to work with. So
shows you bartending can be your real job. But other than that, you also went to, after that, Flair Camp. Tell us about that.
But wait, there's more. Yes, flew into Faro, Portugal. I went on to Albufeira, Portugal, to meet up with Tom Dyer's Flair Camp for the weekend. It was absolutely amazing. Allison got to join me for the second portion of that. A couple of days of chilling out, and Allison helped me out as we did 5 1-hour classes for Tom's Flair Camp, the Flair guys. Magic. I taught them all about magic tricks at the bar, some elastic bands and some shaker tin tricks, and some other tricks at the bar, to teach them a different style of flair that's not just flipping bottles, more up close, and where the fingers do the magic, not your hands juggling. So that was very cool. And then I got to present to the whole group, 40, almost 50 people with the other guests, and we just talked about Finest Call and Real. And then when we finished that, they just started asking questions about my history, and I just started telling stories. I felt like I was a comedian on stage, just telling stories about the old days, how the Flair bottle was invented and all that stuff. So it was cool. I went on and on, talk about cutting off somebody who was going on and on. I was on for 2 hours after that, so 3 hours in total. Wow. Of just me ranting and telling stories and cursing and swearing and just having a great time laughing with these guys. And it was absolutely cool. We do have a short video, I think. I don't know if Joe got it lined up or not, of all the pictures that Allison took of me signing autographs and signing T-shirts and stuff. It's a little self-promoting, I suppose. But it was a very, very special moment for me. So we can run that video if you got it, Joe.
Thanks so much for coming out here and having some good fun with us today. Getting back to the roots. And thank you for supporting Record Store Day. And pass it on to the next generations, Woo!
I like it.
And there we are, me screaming. So kind of felt like some of the old days, when we were signing things and people were showing up to Legends, and there was 500 people in the lineup, or however many people there were. Very cool and very inspirational for me as well. So I wanted to run that video so you could see some of the new faces in Flair. So cool. Thanks,
That's
guys.
awesome. And it's great seeing that there are new faces in Flair with, the right mentality. They're hungry to learn. They're making cocktails. They're entertaining, and the future is bright. And I'm excited to see where it goes from here.
Yeah, and all your comps coming up, and just so many things going on. It's buzzing. It's buzzing. So,
I'm sorry, my throat is dry, Gene.
I was just thinking, I've already talked so much. Maybe it's time for me to have a drink too. But let me set this up before I go. Before I do my 1 minute mixology, right? So we're walking through Venice, right? And we go through St. Mark's Square and everything, and I'm just like, wow. And Marco goes, oh, we're going to tuck in here for a drink. It's Harry's Bar in Venice.
Oh, did you get a martini? What'd you get?
I got a bunch of Bellinis, and I'm going to make you a Bellini the way that I watched it being made at Harry's Bar, which was a different technique that I hadn't thought of. But guess what else happened, Rob? I bought 2 books.
Yes.
Harry's Bar books. But guess who happened to be at Harry's Bar? Harry himself. I got Harry to sign a couple of books for me. He was a perfect gentleman, super, super sweet guy. Arrigo Capriani got to sign these books for me. So I was pretty thrilled about that. You can imagine. Totally geeking out, I couldn't even talk to him. I'm like, can you sign my books for me? I felt like I don't know. It was just kind of funny how it all played out. But got to meet Harry, got a couple of pictures with him. So this is a Finest Call and 19 Crimes version of the Bellini, done in a way that I was not, that I'm still kind of surprised about. And I'll talk about it while we go.
Should I catch?
It looks like all right, 1 minute mixology. This is a white peach Bellini using the Finest Call. Real peaches from California and 19 Crimes. So anytime I've done this before, I've built it in the glass and done a little stir to dissolve it. But here's how they did it at Harry's, and it totally blew me away. He poured all kinds of the Prosecco in there and then stirs it up like so. And I'm like, wait a second, you're killing all the bubbles, right? And then I realized that was the point. Instead of having a very, very bubbly Prosecco and white peach puree, when he pours it out, now of course he's got a stemless flute glass, but whoop whoop, I gotta pour some of that foam off. I made so much of it. I'm gonna run out of time. There we go. There was my drink in there. All right. It makes for a nice, softer Bellini. It's not as I can't hear you. Can you hear me? Oh, I can't hear you.
I had my mic on mute when you were going. I was shaking and doing stuff. I'm sorry.
So am I allowed to pour the rest of that?
It's what you're supposed to be drinking. Had you hold the pour, you could have kept going.
I can drink out of this, I suppose.
There you go. I mean, it's a vessel, right?
There we go. I'm cheating. Wait a second. This is our show. I can do whatever the hell I want to do. All right. But that was pretty cool. Sure, it's a little sloppy right in there, but you get the idea on why it was kind of a surprise to me that they were actually pouring it so kind of vigorously, if you will, getting all those extra bubbles out. So it looks really pretty here, as you can tell. And that's the white peach Bellini. Woohoo! So yeah, using some 19 Crimes today, keeping with our celebrity spirit profile. It's actually pretty good. So, not that it shouldn't be, but. All right, Rob, you ready?
Countdown and let's get into it.
Here we go. Rob's going on a 1 minute mixology in 3, 2, 1.
Bam! Today we are starting off with, because it was just Cinco de Mayo, 2 ounces of Naked Diablo, 6, 7, 8, and Yeho tequila, right in our tin with ice. And then we're going to use 1 ounce of Finest Call single press lime. And I've tried this. I'm excited. The brand new Real red pepper, a 1/2 ounce of that.
Oh, yeah.
1/2 ounce of raspberry Real, 4 drops of saline. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then when we shake, we smile. We're going to strain that goodness right into our chilled coupe glass. Perfection. And then we're going to top that off with a burrata. Yes, burrata cheese foam.
Burrata cheese?
And then topped with some beet sprouts. And there we have the devil is in the details with time to spare.
Nice. Very cool. How is that red pepper stuff, Rob?
When I first tried it at the ABM plant, I was blown away. Like, this stuff is amazing. It's the right amount of spice. And I kept flashing back to having a charcuterie board, that little red pepper jam. I'm like, that was my inspiration for this. Like, I'm going to make a cocktail based on that experience. And I love charcuterie boards. So that's what I did. That's where I went with the raspberry with this. Tequila just happened to work out perfect with it being Cinco de Mayo, and that was on my head. And then I wanted to do a cheese foam, which I've been doing since 2008. And all I do basically is just take your basic foam recipe, but this burrata cheese, if you know when you buy it, the same with mozzarella, it's soaked in water. Well, that water tastes like the cheese itself. So when you use your water in your recipe for your foams, use the cheese one, and that's how I get the cheese flavor in the foam. So between the foam, the cheese, the red pepper, raspberry, I can't stop drinking this, dude. It's so damn good. Great job on whoever came up with this. Pureed pepper, awesome. And I'm looking forward to playing with it more.
She's a genius. Our best kept secret, or not secret, but our best hire ever, I'm sure, is Zulda Obashan, making all of our products better and better every day. They just keep evolving. From 1994, all of our products have evolved quite a bit and continue to. And now she's making these single press juices that have great shelf life. The new pineapple's coming out. It's delish. And then that red pepper and pear real this year too. So amazing stuff. Great shout out.
Want to talk about this real quick? Or
we'll save that for another there as well. Yeah, we made that for the cruise lines. So yeah, very cool. Very exciting year for us at ABM, and well, I've been there for 14 years, and every year has been exciting. So it's amazing.
Well, Dean, do you want to introduce our guest? He's been waiting in the wings long enough, and let's bring out our dear friend.
This guest has been on our show before. He's been on One Drink With, and I believe, I really have to think that this is his third time being on with at least me from back in the old days when we did Behind the Glass in COVID times, when my lovely now wife Allison was my producer at the time. She quit, and then I said, "Well, I'll marry you then." So,
now you can't.
I had to keep her around somehow, right? Anyway, yes, this guest started at TGI Fridays. He was a flair bartender at Fridays. Got into a whole thing, and then he started being an expert on bar rescue, and then became the most sought-after expert on bar rescue, and things have changed on bar rescue, but I'm going to let him tell all that story. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for one of my favorite and most celebrated guests, Mr. Phil Wills. Good man.
Hey, Phil, welcome back.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Good to see you, man.
Looking
excited
good.
for today. And Phil, the first question, as always, is what are you drinking?
What? Oh, yeah. See, I didn't do everything that you did, Rob. Great job on that cocktail, by the way. It tastes delicious just watching you make it. But I'm actually I'm working on a cocktail right now. So this is kind of like R&D in motion.
Nice.
But what I did is I did a fat wash with rendered duck fat into a Templeton rye, and a little bit of Demerara syrup, some Peychaud bitters, some orange bitters, and a dusting of black truffle zest on top of it. I'm kind of digging it. It's, this time of the year, you would think that I'd be working on cocktails that were for summertime, but I'm actually looking ahead and seeing what's going on in the fall. So trying to get all my ducks in a row as we move forward.
With your ducks in a row, right? That's part of the name somewhere, I'm sure of it. You guys are going all Picasso on me today. Picasso is the term that I use to describe the mixologists that love doing art in the glass. So you guys are doing Picasso on me today as I'm pouring champagne and prosecco.
You went classic.
But you know what's great? What's great about your drink, Dean, is that you have such a cool story that goes along with it, and you know I think that that's just as important as the ingredients that go into a cocktail. If you have a great story, it could be as simple as a Bellini, but again, your cocktail looks delicious, and I want to sip it because I want to feel like I was at Harry's bar as well.
Right, shaking hands with Harry himself. What a cool opportunity that was. Woo! But yeah, you guys, your drinks look absolutely amazing, and thank you for bringing them on. One drink with.
Yes.
So Phil, wow, man, what a great run you're having. Congratulations. So
thank you. Yeah. You know, I think you just real quick. You said it's a great run.
Yeah.
You know this just as well as I do, that in our industry, I feel like we're just constantly running, and there is no end goal. There is no stop. You're just constantly going and going and going. So, you know, this run started for me 20 something years ago. And sometimes I increase my pace and sometimes I have to slow down a little bit, but I feel like it's a constant run.
Yeah, it's just a constant grind toward it, right? Just constantly working at it, and that's part of the, you know, you're an entrepreneur and you are your product, right? So you have to be constantly promoting yourself and constantly promoting the skills that you bring to any one of your customers, be it Bar Rescue or one of your consulting customers or anyone for that matter, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's just you can't stay complacent is what I like to think. So yeah, you do have to continuously market yourself, your business. But you know what I found in our business especially is it's the network that you build and the network that you have around you, and somehow everything kind of continues to have like a ebb and flow if you have a great network. And I think that's probably in the past 10 years something that I've learned the most is having people around you that you trust and having that network of people that you know that you can either work well with or you want to get to where they are at in one way or another. So you sit close by them and you learn the ropes a little bit, you know, till it's your turn.
And I guess you'd agree that equally important to collecting a great network is making sure that you discard the people that are that you don't want in your network, you know, and then kind of veering away from some of the people that could take you off your focus.
Yeah, it's you know, you talk about mental health in our industry in general, and that plays a big role on it because sometimes it could take a toll when you do have people that enter your life and you know they're not good for you, but you don't realize that until you're pretty far into it. So yeah, you have to be careful with that. Get rid of the bad ones and keep the good ones. It's pretty simple.
Right. Increase that network's overall quality as you keep growing, and you've done an amazing job at that. So congratulations, sir.
Thanks, man.
Let's talk about Bar Rescue a little bit. All right. You're taking over the reins of Bar Rescue a little bit. John Taffer was the longest running host, and things have changed there. Can you update our audience on what's changed for you at Bar Rescue that way?
Yeah, you know, John is still the host. Even on the episodes that he's not on, he's very much involved. You know, there's a lot of bars out there that do need help. So the season has expanded, and you know, John can't be everywhere all at once. And there's talk about mental health. You have to have some time for some personal space too. But doesn't mean that we can't stop going out there and rescuing bars. So, you know, I'm blessed to be in the position that I'm at. I mean, I definitely have worked hard to get to where I'm at, and it's starting to show a little bit, which is great. So I'm co-hosting some of the episodes now when John can't be on site or on camera, or if we have double rescues going on at the same time. He has his trusted crew around him that can go off and branch off, and people that he trusts. And It's going well. I'm getting a good run with it, and I've had a few air already, and we're continuously filming, and where it's fit that I come in place, then I come through and I kick the door instead of John does, I guess you could say.
I've been watching some of your posts online, and it looks like you're just kicking some butt out there.
Yeah.
It looks better in the dark, one of the guys says, right?
Oh man, I've been working on the show for 10 years as an expert, with the bar side of things, and now hosting and being the hospitality expert. It's amazing that you still hear these crazy things, and they're truly shocking. And these places that people own out there are just they're just so bad. Every time I step into a new bar, it's a brand new experience. But I think the problem is that not a problem. The challenge is that we have 4 days to turn this thing around. So a lot of the drive that happens in the beginning, and I definitely learned this from John, is to get to the root of the cause, because you don't have a lot of time to mess around. Once you can figure out the root of the cause of why they're failing, and you focus on that through the rescue, you're not going to fix everything in 4 days. We'll keep it real, but we're going to do the best that we can and lay the foundation for them to be successful if they choose to be. So a lot of the aggression in the beginning is that it's just trying to get to the bottom of things, and it doesn't always have to be aggressive in the beginning, but generally to break through that thick skin, or that initial defiant layer of skin that they have, sometimes you have to be a little aggressive.
I'm just gonna shake them a bit, huh?
A little bit. Yeah.
What are some of the coolest? I mean, just to get a little gossipy about this show, what are some of the toughest challenges that you've had to face, either as a bar expert or even now as the host?
Yeah, I mean, you can go through the gamut. There's been some episodes where it was the staff that were truly doing wrong to the owners, and I've been a part of a few of those. But it really always lies back to the owners and how they operate their business. Are they too invested into the party aspect of it? Did they just get a lump sum of money and thought that it'd be great to open up a bar or take over a bar? It's been a lifelong dream of mine to own a bar, but they have no bar experience. It's the reason why people get into bars are usually the reason why they're failing, because you need to get into the business with the business mindset in order to be successful. There's not a huge margin when it comes to bars and restaurants, so you really have to be focused on the business aspect of it all, and then you can pour all your heart and soul into it. But I think that for me, the toughest challenges going into any of these rescues is to break through to the ownership or the management, and let them see from the outside looking in how bad their actions actually are. And then once they can see that and realize that, then they can do better. So a lot of times you can't break through, and I think that that's probably the biggest challenge when I get to day 2 or 3, and you still can tell the owner isn't with it, and you're like, oh man, I don't know if these guys are going to work out. But again, you lay the foundation and you put everything in place for them to be successful, and you can't do much because you can't stand around holding their hands the whole time.
That makes good sense. That makes good sense.
So Phil, from being the bar rescue expert to transitioning to the bar rescue host, what have you learned personally in that growth and development, and what can you do to share that with our audience to help them as well?
Yeah, again, I think what I'm blessed in the position that I'm in is that I've worked with John Taffer for the past 10 years as his expert, and have worked on projects with him outside of the show as well. So we have a good working relationship, and he's still the host of the show. I co-host on some episodes. So even on the episodes that I co-host on, I'm still working directly with him. He's still a big mentor to me along the show. So, that's always helpful. It's a big transition to be just a mixology expert into being a host of a show. But, I think the joy that I get is that all the business side of bars and restaurants, which is primarily what I do with my consultancy, can shine through a little bit more as a host of the show. I love cocktails and I love creating cocktails, and that's one part of my business. But The bigger part is the consultancy and building concepts from the ground up and knowing what works and what doesn't work, and lighting and music and levels and ambiance and the details of the touches and the mise en place and all the stuff that it takes to actually be successful in opening a bar or a restaurant. I'm able to use that talent a little bit more as a co-host of the show. So that excites me.
Awesome. All right. So switching gears from bar rescue, now we're talking about consulting, and I'm glad you brought that up, and taking a step away from the bar and creating paths for our futures, for future bartenders. With everything that happened from COVID, from staff shortages to ingredient pricing to shortage of ingredients to everything else, like how has that affected your consulting and how you approach it now with those added challenges for venues?
Yeah. So, just to kind of take it on a timeline, pre-COVID, my consultancy, we were doing well. I have a business partner, and we had a lot of clients, and we were, had a lot of retainers going on, but we ran it like a business, and we were smart about our money. So we had employees, and we had a good nest egg kind of put aside for the rainy days. We were able to maintain our employees, maintain our salary as far as operating the business, even when we lost all of our contracts. And we had to pivot, and I think that in our industry, being fluid and being able to react when things are going wrong, or if if there's a trouble, or if there's like some sort of issue that you have to handle, being able to react to it quickly is always going to save your business. And the people that succeeded through COVID, they reacted quickly. I think that that's a great mindset, even outside of COVID. Is just, if things are happening, don't wait for things to get better, react to them and make them better. And if there's young entrepreneurs out there, or people that want to get into the bar or restaurant business, I always say, know your numbers, know the P&L, know what's going to make you guys money once you guys are open. Understand that part of it mostly, because if you only rely on having the cool decor and an awesome cocktail menu, ultimately you're going to fail if you don't know the back office controls and know where your money should be at. So if you're going into it, as far as owning a bar or a restaurant, really know the business on the business side of things. The other stuff, the creativity, I'm not saying that's easy, but that can come. And that's not real difficult. You can have a great team around you to help create that vision of yours. But if you don't know the business side of things, you're going to ultimately fail. And you're going to end up, closing doors in 2 years, or selling out, or hiring somebody like myself to come in and fix something that never had to be fixed in the first place.
Well said. Well said. One thing I've been noticing too is the ones that seceded, like you said, they pivoted or whatever, but they're willing to take a risk. And whether it was the right thing or the wrong thing, they took a chance, and thank God the ones that stayed, it worked out for them.
Yeah. No, that's true. You take smart, calculated risk. Life is all about taking risk, and sometimes you take the really big risks, and sometimes you make the small ones that you kind of know you're gonna succeed on. But those are what I call our attitude risks. You take a small risk that you're going to succeed on, and it builds up your attitude. But yeah, it's those smaller businesses and businesses all around outside of our industry. They had to take some sort of risk to try to survive and try to maintain. And some people came out more profitable than others did on it. But it's tough. Business is tough. And even in our industry, it's crazy to see where Rob, yourself, and Dean, where you guys have grown to. And I kind of came up watching you guys in the industry and the flair scene, and I feel like we're always adapting ourselves and changing, and then kind of going back. And we're revisiting flair through COVID, and it started to gain a lot of traction, and videos were coming out. And coming out of COVID, people are interested, and you guys brought back so many different awards and different competitions, and now they're starting to resurface. And it's exciting to see that. And I remember about 6 to 8 years, people were like, Flair's dead. And I was like, well, it still goes on at Carnival Court in Vegas, so it's not dead. But now you're seeing it all over the place, which is kind of cool. I love our industry. I love the craft cocktail. I love the mixology. I love the gastronomy. I love the high end of it. I love the fun flair part of it. I love our dive bars. Like, there is no wrong way to do it in our industry, and that's part of the thing I love. I love so much about it.
My 35,000 foot look at all of that, and I shared this with the guys at Flair Camp as well. that I think one of the reasons why Flair, I don't want to say died, but fell down, and I don't want to say died because if I do, Rob will punch me. But he's like, Flair never died. I'll let him go on about that. But Flair started in the late 90s or in the 90s and became big, and I think it became big prematurely. I think people started watching it. It was fun, and I blame the Flair bottle for part of this as well because the level of difficulty went up so fast because of the Flair bottle itself and all the training. Well, moving forward from that, Flair fell because mixology became popular and people started making drinks again. But I think that's how it was supposed to happen. I think we as bartenders needed to learn how to make drinks before we learned how to flare. I think the natural progression or the organic progression of flare is that you have to be good at what you're doing before you can start adding some pizzazz to what you're doing. And I think that's where we are now. Although all of us lived through it back in the 90s and early 2000s, but the new generation of bartenders, they're learning how to make cocktails to begin with. And now they're going, hey, wait a second, there's some flair stuff out here too. So I'm hoping that we continue in that growth for some more longevity in the industry of bartenders that like to bartend with flair as opposed to flair bartenders.
Right. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. And I was very similar to what you were saying. I was thinking with flair, it was big in the 90s. And then I look at what the trends were with cocktails. And cocktails were just fun, sugar, fruit forward, crazy ingredients.
Right.
The crazier, the better. And flair was kind of like that as well. So the trend in how we were drinking back in the 90s and into the early 2000s represented how the bartenders delivered those drinks. As we started to move into more cocktail based and more craft cocktail forward, that's when flair started to go down because people were putting their time and energy into learning the cocktails. Now, if you look at drinking trends, there's a lot of those 90s cocktails that are starting to be revived. And I'm seeing a lot of menus that are using more bright colors, bright citrus, a little bit more fun, like exotic, just going a little bit more high end.
But higher quality ingredients.
Exactly. So the ingredients are becoming more quality. We're doing a lot of, fast craft cocktail where we're batching a lot of the spirit and we just have a bottle or a lot of the batch and we're just have a bottle of spirit that we're using. So as a flair bartender, you can have a 7-ingredient cocktail in your batch and still be able to flare with it all and not have to take up any more time. So it's fun. It's a fun time. And I sound like I'm up here like promoting flair, and I'm not even that deep into the flair community, but I do love it.
I think it's a natural progression. So it's not even that you're promoting flair; you're promoting bartenders with a little style, right? Yeah. So I mean, back in the '90s, we drank for different reasons too. We drank for volume back then. People went to the bar to get drunk. Nowadays, we go to the bar to enjoy the flavors of an individual ingredient, right?
That's not what you were saying when I saw you in Vegas.
We may have video of that, Joe.
What happened in Vegas? Come on, man. You just broke the cardinal rule of Vegas. So, speaking of traveling around and stuff, you're a family man traveling. It's something that I struggle with as well in my travels. How do you balance the family and the travels and all that stuff, Phil?
Got to have a solid woman behind you. I mean, that's probably the number one thing. Just the support of my wife, Myra, and when I'm able to hit the road. We went through a big part of our relationship and having our child was during COVID. So 2 years of not really traveling much or doing much. I'm kind of like a different husband now that I'm on the road a lot and the show is calling and I'm filming and I have clients all across the country and I have to be here and there and everywhere. We have a lot of communication and we keep it honest. And, she honestly said, you're traveling too much and you need to take a look at that. And I hear her and I understand that. So, I think that in order for it to work for me, and this works for me, doesn't necessarily work for everybody, but to make sure that you have open communication and she knows how important this next stage of my life is. So she's a little bit more flexible and more supportive with it, but I don't want her to break. So she can bend, but she can't break. So I need to make sure that I'm home more often. So it's just communication, you know, and being around and being there and listening and all the good stuff that we should be doing as partners.
Right. And maybe they can join you on a trip here or there.
Oh yeah.
But more importantly, in there for the long run, right? Knowing that they're going somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. When we were in Vegas last in March, we did share a libation or two watching Colby Ashton man the bar at Fuel. You said something to me that has stuck with me since. We were talking about building careers and the success that I don't know, so many of us have had just being bartenders. We laughed about this in Italy too with Marco Canova, who's an ex-Flair bartending champion, who's now in charge of 45 countries for us. But you said, just keep doing the work in response to how to build your career, even though you don't know where it's going. Can you expand on that again? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, you know, I think it's as I reflect back at my career in the industry and what I've done and things that I've accomplished and things that I haven't accomplished yet. You know, I get asked of like, how do you get to work? What's that?
These jobs didn't exist back then, right?
No, yeah, they didn't, and maybe they did, and I just didn't know of it. You know, the ambassadors and the consultants and that type of thing. It's funny. The first consultant I ever came in contact with, and I saw her on your promo, was Kim Hasserud, and that was when I was doing a lot of work with Fridays back in the day, and she came on as a consultant. And we worked together on like some sort of margarita launch that she came and we tested and everything. And I kind of asked her, I said, what do you do? And she said, well, they hire me to create drinks. And I was like, whoa, really? And I remember that being the first time I was like, there's something different to do outside of behind the bar.
Right.
But when I say keep doing the work, I was a bartender. I did the best that I could do every single time for the most part when I would show up to work, especially when I was with corporate, even when I was with, private entities. I was still doing the best I could do. I went into operations. I went into the corporate level. I went into mixology. It just everything that was kind of in front of me. I was like, yes, let's do that. That's something brand new I haven't learned. And I think that.
So you're learning all the different aspects of the industry.
Well, yeah, I was Flair bartending back in the day and learned a big deal of my hospitality focused approach on what I do now is from TGI Fridays and from the past. So I felt like I had that down. And when mixology started to become popular and I stepped away from the corporate life, it was real easy for me to transition into a high-end mixology bar. And that's where I learned a lot of the techniques and gastronomy and mind blown with cocktails and how they're created. It was a little bit too stuffy and pretentious for me, so I didn't like to be associated with that much, but I took all the knowledge that I got from it and held on to it. And I think right around that time is when I started my own consultancy, because I started working at some conferences and just hired as a bartender to come in and help out with the conferences, and saw an opportunity there. And I was just like, wait, I want to do what that famous mixologist is doing. They're just showing up and they're creating cocktails and there's pictures of him on the walls. Like that looks like a great job. How do I do that? So and just building the network, as we talked about earlier, and knowing people and showing up, doing a great job, not asking for too much, and just always being available and doing what is needed and then some, and offering great ideas, and people seeing a value in what you do and what you could bring to the table. Doors started opening up and opportunities started happening. But it was like, as you said, just continue doing the work. I don't know where my career is going to take me. I didn't know where it was going to take me 10, 15, 20 years ago when I first started, or even in the middle of my career. I didn't think I would be at this point where I'm at right now, but here I am. So I'm going to stay with that same mantra of just keep doing the work, keep taking opportunities as they come forward, and try to leave the world a better place than how you found it. That's pretty much all I do.
That's great. That's great. And I guess, none of us knew that the world could be for our industry. So just keep doing the work. And I've been spreading that gospel now and sharing it with other bartenders. Just keep doing the work, because the job that you want may not have been even created yet.
Right.
And keep doing the work, and that job will find you when your time is right. So that's stuck with me quite a bit. So thank you very much for sharing that.
No, thank you.
So to build on what you guys are saying, I agree with almost everything. Like back then, those jobs didn't exist, and then it took those leaders to kind of pave the road to show these brands and venues and restaurants the value of that position. So now those positions are more out there. Phil, what advice would you give to seasoned bartenders that are looking to get into consulting and actually growing their business?
Yeah, it's I think that the downfall to what I do as far as being a consultancy is there's too many people that are consultants. And what I mean by that is you'll have somebody that is fresh out of like bartending school, maybe worked a year behind a bar as an apprentice, and then just got promoted to full-time bartender. And they're signing consulting gigs, But what they don't understand is they create these menus and these cocktails and they hand them over, and then people launch them. And then a month later, they're not making any profit on them because they didn't understand the cost analysis or sourcing of ingredients and didn't know that the ingredients were going to be bad the next season and they couldn't use them anymore. So there's a lot that goes into it. So I think that people that are just starting off, if you can create great cocktails and you want to be a consultant, then just do that. And just say, I only create cocktails. Here are some parameters that you're probably going to need to understand and build upon. Once that could happen and they can be truthful with how they're assigning these initial projects, I think the consultancy world will be a little bit better, because then you have people that have been through years and years and years of the business side of bars and restaurants, like myself, that will come in and say, hey, I'll do X, Y, and Z for you, and this is how much it's going to cost you. And they say, well, we used a consultant last time and it was horrible. It was a waste of time and we ended up losing money. So I've lost more deals than I've gained by hearing those type of stories. So people in our industry, if you want to be a consultant, please do it. Learn the business and just consult on what you're really good at and what you know. And I'll be the first one to tell people, I don't consult on permits or legal or any of that type of stuff. If you want that, you need to bring somebody else in. I'm going to help you from the design and the build out, the cocktail menu, the SOPs, the back of the house, the P&L. The other stuff I can't do. And then people will hire somebody else to do them. So I'm honest, and I think that goes a long way. And once you sign a gig, then that becomes another gig, and then that becomes another gig, and then next thing you know, you're starting to flourish. Just make sure you don't burn any bridges along the way as you're starting off your consultancy.
Right.
Nice.
Work your dot.
Expectations and just own up to them and make them straight out in the beginning where it's black and white, so they know what they're getting into. Now, let me ask you this: once you've got the consulting gig, and you've done this numerous times, and you've learned a lot through it, what are some of your tactics and strategies of winning over those bartenders that think they know everything and breaking down those barriers where we can all learn from each other?
The best part about what I've learned of being behind the bar for 12, 15 years was people and how to understand them and how to interact with them and deal with them. So going into any bar or restaurant, and my whole staff, we all operate the same way, is everybody's individualized. And we recognize that, and we see people and we talk to them and we get to know their learning style, especially nowadays with the younger generation coming up. They have a different learning style than the older generation. So, when we go into do a training and there's that much of a discrepancy of maybe 10 years between your senior bartender and your youngest bartender, the styles are going to be a little bit different. With the senior bartender, maybe I approach them where, hey, we've both been in the industry for a long time. There's so many different ways to do these things. That if we can get everybody on the page of getting everything done correctly, we're going to have a better shift. They're just like, hell yeah. So I try to break it down where I'm talking to them like, I've been where you're at. We've worked behind the wood. I've been in the trenches just as much as you have. So I'm talking to you as a peer and not as somebody like trying to come down on you. When I was an operator and I operated restaurants, that's how I would treat my staff as well. Very similar, where I'm like, I'm not here to tell you what to do, but hey, here's the why behind the what. This is why it works. And sure, there's other ways to do it. This is how we're going to do it because it will produce these type of results. And I think that people are a little bit more understanding when you're not trying to come down and talk down to them, and just maybe be on their level and coach and counsel them along the way. Hear what they're saying as far as their insight and say, hey, that's a great suggestion. This is why we're going to do it this way. And there's the reasons why. And usually they're a little bit more understanding than if you just say, this is how you do it. They're just like, hey, screw you. I'm going to do it the easier way, which is my way.
Dean, what are your thoughts? I know you got some great thoughts on this.
Yeah, I think it's great. I was just kind of laughing to myself because back in my day, bartenders started getting business cards made that said mixologist on them, and we used to laugh and say, "Mixologists are bartenders with business cards." But yeah, learning every aspect and not consulting on things you don't know about seems pretty logical when we say it right now. But there's so many people out there. I may be guilty of it myself, but stick with what you're good at and stick with what you know. Phil, tell us about some of your accomplishments. Which ones are you most proud of? Because you've crossed so many cool things off your list.
I mean, how could I not say that my daughter Avalon is my best accomplishment?
Right, right, of course.
By far to date.
Right.
Even though she's in the background screaming because she just got home from school and she's probably not a happy camper. Wants
to see daddy.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I love entertainment, and I think that my longevity with Bar Rescue, I'm very proud of. There's not a lot of mixologists that stuck around on the show as long as I have. So I've developed a great relationship with John and, as a mentor and a friend. So that's always helped. But I think the television part is something that I really love. But my ultimate thing is traveling. And probably the best overseas trip that I ever took was to Japan to go through all the shochu distilleries for a week. With a couple of colleagues of mine, and that was just such a mind-blowing experience from the people, the culture, the spirit, the knowledge, the learning. So why that's my favorite is because it just makes me hungry for more of that type of travel, of learning drinking cultures and learning how people do things in other parts of the country, because I feel like I've ingested enough of how we do things in the US, and it's always great to get a lot more of insight from what people are doing all around the world, especially countries that you wouldn't even imagine would be doing great things. They are.
Yeah, absolutely. Any of my trips overseas or South America, and I mean certainly all over the U.S., but coming back from those trips have been the most impactful for me because you do get to see these different cultures and people living a different lifestyle, and you're going, wow, you know what? That's pretty cool,
Yeah.
And it just changes everything. So I love the travel just as much for all those aspects because people are really cool everywhere around the world.
Imagine that.
Imagine that. Yeah, everybody's really cool. So we're going to get into your future plans in a minute. But before that, we would like to play a little game that we call Pour It Forward. All right.
I like games.
From our last show just before the break was the Flair Judge POV on Instagram, a very experienced judge for Flair bartending competitions, and we asked him to ask Phil Wills a question. So we're going to roll that video now and leave the question to Sabi Soka.
Hi, Phil. This is Sabi Soka. I am the guest from the last episode, and I have a question for you. So what was the craziest mistake a bar needed a rescue?
What was the craziest mistake?
Oh, man. The craziest mistake that a bar needed to rescue. Oh, man. Which one do you want me to pull from? There's so many.
But it has to be the craziest.
I tell you, one episode that really sticks out in my mind was one that we did in Chicago, and we rescued this bar that was right next to Wrigley Field. And the owner was just such a sour jerk. I mean, he was probably the worst owner I ever came in contact with on the show to date. But his name was Ed, and John billed him as Smiling Ed because he didn't smile. So the whole episode, we were just trying to get him to smile, have some sort of personality. Everything that we did, everything that we said, he had a comeback for. He counterdicted everything that we tried to put in place or talk about. He had a shot on the back of the bar that was a wet P shot, P-U, cricket Y shot.
Gotcha.
Which was it was all girls that worked there, and we were just like, you're so degrading. He's like, no, I'm not. They love it. It was every single part of that episode. You just wanted to reach through the TV and slap him, and in person, I wanted to like grab him and just like knock it off. So it got so bad throughout the whole time that we were there that we didn't want to open his bar. However, we got so far into the remodel that we completed it. But we gave the staff the ultimatum is if they wanted to stick around and work for him or move on, because we weren't going to do a relaunch and like bring in cameras and have all the fanfare to launch his bar. So they said, you know what, we want to leave him high and dry. So his whole staff walked out on him. We handed the keys over to him, but his whole staff walked out on him, and that felt pretty good. I didn't like handing over the bar, and I know that John was kind of pissed off about that too. But ultimately, he kind of got screwed in the end. But he was the worst, absolutely the worst owner I have ever had to deal with. Good question.
That's a pretty intense. I'm sure your list of bad owners is pretty extensive, and to put someone that definitively at the top of it. Yeah. If his entire staff walked out on him, that's pretty amazing, Rob.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of bad ones on there, and you cringe. I'm like, what are you thinking? But that one almost is poetic. So that's a great example, Phil. Thanks for sharing that with us.
Yeah.
Phil, what's next for Phil Wills?
Headed out to do another bar rescue shortly. I'm going to San Francisco tomorrow.
Nice.
And you talk about bringing family with me. My wife is coming up, so we're going to head up there for the night. I have a little presentation going on in the evening, and then we'll be able to enjoy the Bay for a little bit.
Nice.
A lot of travel. I think come June, July, my travel kind of comes down a little bit, which I'm not mad about. However, when I show up, I make money. So that's important too. But yeah, just filming and my business. So I have a couple of projects in the works right now. I'm working on one in Ohio, just finished one for Marriott in Omaha. Another project coming up in Florida towards the end of the year, and then another big project that I can't really talk about because I have an NDA signed on it, but that would be overseas, and that would take up a good portion of 2025. So looking forward to that.
Where overseas?
Dubai.
Nice.
Yeah.
I've only seen pictures. I'm jealous. I would love to go sometime. So hopefully that goes for you, man.
Yeah.
When in Florida are you going to be here? When at the end of the year, you said? You know roughly what month?
Probably October, if everything works out.
October 6th to the 9th is the Bartenders Shakedown Mixology Matters Cocktail Conference. If you're here, we are definitely hooking up, and please, you'd be my guest.
Or a judge.
Or judge, yeah.
Nice. All right. Let's get on to our final sip here. I've got a few drops left in there.
I think I do too.
Yeah, our final sip is well, first of all, would you be happy to join us on our Patreon for one more drink with Phil Wills?
Would I? I would love to. Yes. That's where we get down to the nitty-gritty, and we could just be super candid.
Yeah. We don't follow any rules. We don't follow any questions, and we just kind of hit it.
Right.
So, Rob, start us off with your final sip from today.
Final sip from today, and biggest takeaway, I would have to say, is communication. Don't be afraid to have those hard conversations as well those easy conversations with your bar owner, your significant other, your partner, because eventually during the day, after those conversations, you're only going to get somewhere else than where you are now, whether it be good or bad.
Love that.
Nice. I have to learn from that. I have to learn from that. Well, I'll go down the similar route of being able to include your significant other in your successes, whether it's bringing them on a trip with you or bringing that success home. And I guess I'm probably kind of copying what Rob said, I think, just sharing it. But yeah, I guess another one of the takeaways from the show today would be doing the work. I know I brought that question in earlier because it stuck with me, but doing the work and just keep at it. And as Phil said earlier, try to leave wherever it is better than when you got there, and the world will open up and the universe will create opportunities for you when you get to them.
Well said, buddy.
Yeah.
Phil, what's your final sip?
Well, let me take it.
Yeah, right.
My final sip is kind of, I guess we're just going to piggyback on each other, but you talk about doing the work, and I want to reference you and your Italy trip and Flare Camp. And, I think that when you get on the international level and you start to see how many people you've impacted, is a little bit humbling. And so for me, I want to keep doing the work. So at some point, I can collectively look around and say, I've impacted a lot of people in a positive way. And I think that you going through that experience, maybe I'm wrong, kind of like had that effect of just, gosh, I see you signing bottles and all these legends that you're hanging out with and meeting and people you've seen before and friends. And it's pretty amazing. So yeah, that's my one sip, my final sip.
Yeah. So humbling, and I kept repeating that night that I was just rambling on to these guys, and they were loving what I was sharing. I was just telling some of my experiences, and very humbling to see some of the guys that I look up to that I haven't met yet, like Michael Moriali and Alexander Stefanov, and all these guys. I have never met them, and now we're just hanging out. It's very humbling. Very humbling, and I said I've got a couch to sleep on anywhere in the world because of the hospitality industry.
That's true.
So very cool. Where can we find you on the internet and all that other kind of stuff there, Mr. Wills?
Yeah, follow me. There you go. Instagram, PhilIam11. I think Twitter is the Phil Wills. I don't use it that much anymore. Facebook, just search Phil Wills. I'll probably pop up and somewhere in the top 10, I hope. And then professionally, you can reach out to thespiritsinmotion.com.
All right.
Or you can send me an email, phil@thespiritsinmotion, and ask me any questions. I'll get back to you.
Awesome.
Well, Phil, thank you for everything. We thank you for your time. And
yeah, it's been great.
You're always an amazing guest. You got so much to share, and we love you for that. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to say goodbye, and then we're going to come back on our Patreon for one more drink with.
Yeah, so join us at about 9:30 on Patreon. We'll be back here with Phil Wills. Just look up Cocktail Network Live on Patreon. Yeah, thank you very much, Phil. It's been great having you on the show yet again. I look forward to doing it another season.
Yeah, appreciate you guys. Thanks for all the support, and I continue to support you guys. Keep working hard, guys.
Thanks, buddy.
You, sir.
All right.
I just love watching Phil's career. It just keeps going up and up and up, and he's doing all these cool things,
Such an inspiration for so many out there. And like he touched on is like, at the end of the day, you just want to, hopefully all your efforts have mattered and gone somewhere. So just showing that there's that legacy lives on with you at Flare Camp and hearing all that from all those people in the past and all the people's Phil's touch with it, with this consulting and all of us with the competitions and opportunities. Like it's awesome. It's great to know, it's this job is more than just a paycheck at the end of the day.
Yeah, bartending, it can be a real job, right? Look at these great comments coming in. Great show, so informative. SC Customs said hello, and they love the show. Here's Brian Cleveland. You're the best mixologist in the industry. I don't know if he was talking to you or me or probably Phil,
Probably
right?
Phil.
Yeah, probably Phil. And Kimberly says, "Hey there." It's great. It's just great having all these people join us and watching the show. Yeah, great flow of the show today, Rob and Joe. Thank you very, very much.
It's a team effort, and it's great to see a lot of planning and some time off, well rested, and we're back and ready to go. And speaking of ready to go,
Hopefully
next
my
week's
sunburn will
guest,
go away.
if I can set it up, next week's guest, you know him, you love him, the official, the original voice of Flair, Mr. JD Spradlin. He's emceed more. He's introduced more Flair bartenders and bartending comps than I'm aware of across the world, from Legends to Quests to Nations to Bartenders Bash to Bar Wars to a lot of our own competitions. And coming back next week, we're going to talk all about it. You'll get to see him on stage on Monday, June 10th, National Flair Bartenders Day at the Cocktail Art Challenge. JD Spradlin. So if you have any questions for him, put it in our comments, put it on the Cocktail Network Live Facebook page, send us an email, and we'll be sure to ask those questions, or join us live in the comments next Monday at 8 p.m.
That's so fantastic. JD and I go back, well, all the way back to the beginning, really. In the late 90s, I guess. We had him out for the Cayman Islands competitions and so many. So he's just been such a huge impact on the industry. So yeah, just love being here, love hanging out with you guys. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the Patreon around 9:30. Be sure to join us. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Joe.